Hello, boxing fans. We're here with another news update. I'm your host, Kurt Ward, and I'm joined by Adam Smith, Paul Webb, and Alex Morris. We're going to be discussing the news today that Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, promotional outfit, have extended their deal with Sky for another 5 years. They're looking at doing around 20 shows a year. Paul, there's been quite mixed reaction on Twitter I've seen to this announcement that was apparently going to blow up British boxing. Has it blow up anyone? Have you noticed?
I don't think it's blown anybody up, but I think it's a very interesting announcement. I mean, the outline of the deal is basically that Matchroom's current deal runs on until the end of next year. They've basically put a 5 year extension on that. So the current deal will actually run to 2021. So I think it's the longest individual deal that Sky have signed, and they're basically going to be having 120 shows over those 6 years, not including pay per view or any separate outside events they might put on. It's a big announcement. It's earth shattering if you work for Matchroom and you are Eddie Hearn, but when he talks about an earth shattering announcement, it's obviously for fans they're expecting probably something a little bit different. I think it's a brave move from Sky to dedicate and sign up that much time for one promoter, but obviously they've been very happy with the results so far that Eddie's been delivering for them. I think there is improvements that can be made. There are obvious ones. This year hasn't been a great one for a start. But like I say, they seem happy with what they have, and obviously because of Matchroom's tie-ins with other sports and other content they provide, there'd been the darts final that's on as we speak. Obviously they know their eggs are in one basket with Matchroom. They know what they're going to get. Whereas if they risk signing with other promoters, is it worth the hassle? And for Sky, it's a big thing because with the Premier League deal that they've just signed and the billions and billions that that's going to cost, there was always a risk that an expensive sport like boxing could be cut, but that won't happen now. I think pay per view is a big reason why Sky won't cut boxing because they've got that as an extra avenue or revenue. Um, but it's like I said, mixed reactions to it. People want to see the promoters see what they can do. Some people are happy.
Yeah, I mean, I got two things with this. I don't like the monopoly, to be honest. I want to see, like you said, other promoters given a chance. It's like if they if they have a fighter that wants to get on Sky, then he either wants to be poached to Matchroom, or they have to go through Eddie Hearn to get him on Sky. And I don't really like that. I mean, if, yeah, they could still be the main promoter on Sky, but I'd like to see another few promoters get a few dates here and there. And two, I just think the biggest thing for me, and I think Alex will agree, is quality control. I mean, how many of these 20 shows a year are going to be shitfest, basically? I mean, I said it a tweet a few weeks back. It's like, it seems to me at the moment that uh, average fights and average cards are on Sky Sports, and anything good and decent that we want to see is pay per view. Now, to be fair, their upcoming shows in June and July, they're actually looking decent. So let's hope that's the way they're going to go from now. But Alex, I mean, what do you think about this? Is the quality control going to be good enough?
Of course it isn't. I mean, you just need to look at the past 3 years to see what we've been dealt so far. And, when was the last good show? Wembley. That was a year ago. I mean, fucking hell, what do we need? What are we waiting for? What are we going to get in the next 5 years? And there's nothing that's really going to change, I don't think. I mean, yeah, we've got the good May 30th card coming up, but that's pay-per-view. You pay extra for it. So it should be fucking good. As for the June show, I think that the Manchester card's looking good. I really don't rate the Liverpool card that much, as much as other people seem to. I think it's a bang average card, and it's what you should really expect from Sky. As is the Manchester card. It's Manchester card is on the side of good. I would say above average. Um, it'd be interesting to tot it up, really, to go over the last 3 years and really just rate the shows that we've been given. And we know that Sky seem to have this plan of wanting at least four pay-per-views a year, maybe five pay-per-views a year. That's a quarter of the shows, a quarter or a fifth of the shows a year that they'll be doing that you're paying extra for. Then you've got the rest, maybe another 15 shows. You've got two of them, maybe Prize Fighter. Uh, you know, Prize Fighter. Don't need to say anything more. Uh, how many can you reasonably expect to be good shows out of those? What would be a good number to be good? Obviously, if you want to go, sort of a mean average, you'd expect half to be good and half to be bad. But even that would be far better than what we've got so far, and I really can't expect it to get better.
Paul, I think you got a quote to read out.
Yeah, so it's a quote from Eddie Hearn. It's quite interesting because, like I said, a lot of boxing fans are only watching the sport for a short amount of time. The quoted base says, I'm delighted to announce the new 5-year deal. Over the past 3 years, so 3 years since Matchroom, well, Eddie Hearn, as part of Matchroom, have been involved with Sky Sports. With Sky Sports backing, we've developed a team of fighters that's unrivaled by any promotional company in the history of British boxing. We've worked together to take British boxing from small hall shows to filling major arenas all over the country. We create star attractions and take the profile of our sport to another level. So this is where it's quite an interesting point, whereas in Matchroom have now got this big stable. They've got a stable of fighters wide across the country. Have they got the best stable in the history of British boxing? I mean, that could probably put up to argument, but you could argue that they've got it because they're on the right network. They've got Sky's backing. But people that have been watching the sport very long, Eddie's right when he says that Sky used to show some absolute shit. I mean, some of the Saturday night fight cards in tiny little leisure centres where you can still see the basketball hoops being swung up. I mean, it's gone from that to being a much bigger product. The problem is we don't really care about the product. We want the fights. And he hasn't put on enough good 50-50 fights over the 3 years. Hopefully he'll do that now over the next 5, but we'll see. In the quote again, he continues to say that that's what they're looking to do. They want to make more competitive fights and make it a wholly more interactive experience with the fans. So again, pushing on a lot about social media and what Sky are going to do in terms of their programming. But like I say, they've got big fighters at the moment. They've got a big stable, and this is good news in terms of for boxing. The problem is though, people that fight on the likes of Channel 5, ITV, or on Box Nation, ultimately they all want to end up on Sky. So it does make that bit of a monopoly. And again, a monopoly which is basically controlling a whole platform, which a lot of people don't like.
Adam, what are your thoughts on this extended deal?
Well, it's not what I was expecting. I'm not surprised in the extension, but the makeup of it. The last few, I keep referring to the IFL interviews, but that's the main route we've got into the brain of Edward Hearn, and he was referring to doing the same fewer shows, and putting combinations of shows and each individual budget together to make bigger shows. I was a fan of that. But it seems that he's still got the same amount of shows, just for a longer period. I think the football comparison that I can draw is that it is like Sky Sports or the equivalent of just gave. It's like Man U giving Falcao a 5-year deal off the season he's had, because he's been shocking. The shows on Sky have been shocking this year, particularly this year. Particularly, as Alex says, Wembley was the last good card. He's put the worst pay-per-view card in living memory, in British living memory, on last November. Terrible. And he's served up a bag of shit this year. And the worry is that any time it is half decent, we have to pay an extra, between 15 and 20 quid for it. It's just simply not good enough as it's been going. And the different, I know we said some of the fights beforehand, we're in the leisure centres were terrible. Before the monopoly came along, but I think now that we're getting a similar level of fights, as it were, but he's managing to get people through the door. That show in Newcastle, where apparently 4,500 people turned up, was terrible. But for some miracle, and him and his dad must be laughing all the way to the bank, they managed to get 4,500 people through the door for that. Birmingham similar, Hull similar. He's serving up shit and getting paid premium dollar for it. And they seem to be getting away with it. But in terms of we can build Eggington, for example, through social media. We can give him a slot on ringside. Does that make him any better than the likes of Jason Booth, who we used to have back in the day in leisure centres, or people like that? I don't think it does. I think they've very much capitalised on the market that they've managed to create, in terms of the strategies and techniques they use, like social media, etc. But I can see why Sky have done it, really, in the sense that if they give Eddie Hearn the monopoly, he has got by far the biggest stable I think we've come to see, in British boxing, and people are jumping ship all the time to try and get to him. He signed deals with smaller promoters like we've seen Steve Wood, etc., Dave Coldwell. So he's got the development kind of side of it there. And really, if Sky are leaving it all to Eddie Hearn to do the shows, to do the promotions, etc., and a smallish team of on the production side of things, Eddie Hearn's taking a lot of the shit and the politics that comes with boxing. He's absorbing that. He's taking that. So people like Barney Francis or whatever his name is don't really have to worry about it because, as Paul said earlier, it can be, in the past it's probably has took up too much for the size of the viewing figures, etc. It probably has took too much of the big wigs at Sky's time. So I think there's that kind of element to it. I think it's another nail in the coffin of Frank Warren. Because I know he's got his own TV channel, but just depending on who you listen to, that could fall to pieces at any time, and obviously he would want to root back in. But yeah, if you want to fight in this country, you've got to go through Eddie Hearn at the minute. But just looking like he's got a 5-year deal, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Imagine the amount of fighters that potentially he could have fighting for world titles. That's kind of exciting. He's going to be able to bring them on, but as his stable continues to get bigger, as it will do with this new deal, security now for prospective fighters who are going to sign for him. We need to see fighters fighting each other. We don't want to be like prime example. Rocky Fielding and Callum Smith should be fighting each other now. Not trying to get a slice of the title madness. There's already 3, 4 super middleweights
Should
ahead
fought
of
each
them.
other last year.
We need to be seeing that now. If they was the only 2 super middleweights that Britain and Matchroom had, then I can give you a pass. Yeah, let them try and get a world title. Possibly can give them a pass on Frampton and Quigg. They let them try to get world titles. They've done it, and now they're failing to make it. Rocky Fielding and Callum Smith should be fighting each other now, and this is the kind of fights we need to see. So, I think on this year's performance, they can count themselves very lucky to get this. So it's either Sky have said, right, you need to up your game, or there's no 5-year deal on the table, or they've just said, yeah, well done. And if they've said well done, and they're satisfied with what's gone off this year, and still give him a 5-year deal, I'll be worried because that's going to be complacency, and there's going to be more shit served up.